Okay, now we're looking at true bearings or three-figure bearings. So these three-figure bearings, let's say you are standing here at this central position. Well, you can then look at the position of anything around, I suppose, around the circle from where you are. So, but first you have to know where north is. So, for example, if you're standing here and north is that way, and you sight something where this dot is, then a three-figure bearing is measured from north going clockwise. So you're just measuring all the angles around the circle going clockwise. So here's north, draw a line to the other object that you might see, a line of sight. So the bearing is 60 degrees clockwise from north. Now, bearings are called three-figure bearings. They're measured in a clockwise direction. They're measured from north. So this would be not written as 60, but 060 degrees. Okay, here's north. East is on a bearing, because it's a right angle from north to east, is on a bearing of 180. There's north, here's south. The bearing of south is 180. West is on a bearing of 90, 180, 270 degrees. So remember, measured from north, you have to go in a clockwise direction. You write your bearing as three figures. So if we look at these other bearings here, let's say someone's standing here, and they sight something here and we draw a line, well, you need to know where north is. And so the angle from north measured clockwise till you see this is 145 degrees. So the bearing is 145 degrees. Again, this bearing here, if you sight something there and you're standing there and this is north, clockwise from north, that bearing is 230 degrees. And here, the last one, if you're standing here and you see something there, in that rough northwesterly direction, then you can't take the shortcut and say 45 degrees. Remember, there's north. You must go clockwise from north, and that position is 315 degrees clockwise from north, from where one would be standing right there. So bearings can be measured using protractors. For example, northeast, that is a 45-degree bearing. We said east again was a 90 degrees. Southeast is 90 and another 45, which makes 135. South is 180. Southwest would be 180 plus this additional 45, which is 225. West we know is 270. And this would be a 45-degree angle here if that was northwest. So to get northwest, it's almost 360 degrees short 45 degrees, so it's 315. Let's say you were giving these angles here and we want the bearing from point O. So here's point O, you need to know where north is, and we go clockwise until we find this direction. So if you're standing from O and you want to know what the bearing of A from O is, we stand from O, we know where north is, we go clockwise until we find A. So that bearing would be 180 up to there plus this 55, which is 235 degrees. Now this bearing here of, let's call this point B, so the bearing of B from O, well, here's O, there's north. I have to go clockwise until you come to that direction where B is on. So the bearing, that would be 360. Well, it's almost a full circle. Subtract 35 degrees, which is 325 degrees. So when you're doing bearings, sometimes you need to add an angle you may have. Sometimes you need to subtract. You're not always adding. Here's the worksheet that you were given, 16 points of the compass, and you had to mark out where all these different positions were. Just going to go through that quickly. We might do the compass bearings, and then we'll do the true bearings next. So of course we know that. So I'm just going to start going through those, and you can check what you've already done. So we've got east here. Northeast would be, this is northeast, exactly halfway between north and east. So we've got north here. Okay. Now, halfway between north and northeast is north-northeast. Okay. And halfway, so we know that north and south are the major directions, but east is a more major direction. It's one of the main four compass directions compared to northeast. So halfway between east and northeast is called east-northeast. So coming down here, if this is east, we've got south. And halfway, exactly halfway between east and south is southeast. So exactly halfway between south and southeast is south-southeast. This would be east. Sorry, east, southeast. We don't say southeast, east. East is one of the four major directions, so it's east, southeast. Again here, south, west, in between southwest. Here we've got south, southwest, and here we've got west, southwest. So you can just check these off, north and west, that's northwest. This is north, northwest, sorry. Halfway between north and west is northwest. Halfway between north and northwest is north, northwest. Halfway between west and northwest is west, northwest. Okay, now, with all the figures, this is obviously 0. This would be, so let's go over here, we've got 90. Halfway between 90 and 0 is 45, so this would be 0, 45. Halfway between 0 and 45 is 22.5, but it's 0 to 2.5. Now, normally bearings are written to the nearest degree, so look, we're just going to write these with decimals. Halfway between 45 and 90 would be the 45, and add the 22.5 would be 67.5. And then you can just keep going around. We'd have 135. You would have, I'm just going to pause, write them in, and then you can just check your answers later. Okay, 180 we've got. 157.5. Okay, I'll just complete the rest. And here we've got 270. Halfway between 180 and 270. 225. That's 180. This would be 202.5 because we're adding 22.5 to 180. 225, 247.5. And finally, up here, you've got 315, which is northwest. This one would be 292.5. And the last one would be 337.5. So all these are bearings measured from this central point here. So if someone's standing here and they are looking northeast, well, northeast, the angle from north is 45 degrees. If someone's standing here and they're looking northwest, so they're looking along there, well, they have to see where north is, go clockwise until they find northwest. Someone standing down here at southwest, sorry, if you're standing here, you're looking southwest at something else. Well, from the position you are, you find north, go clockwise until you find that direction. So from where you're standing, you can see something over here, something down here, something down there, something over there, something there, something there. All those have to be measured from north going clockwise. Okay, just looking at this worksheet on true bearings. This bearing, if bearing from this position, we can see north, we go clockwise, it would be the 180 plus the 41, which is 221, and so therefore the bearing is 221T, and sometimes you put a T there for true bearing. Standing here, what's the position of this going down there, that arrow? Well, here's north, go clockwise, it would be 180 minus 35, which is 145, so the bearing is 145T. This one over here, well, standing here, this direction is almost 360, but you don't know this little angle here, but you know that definitely around here is 270, and this little bit there is 70. 270 and 70 is 340, so the bearing's 340, meaning that this little angle in here must be 20. So it's almost around the circle, except for this 20 degrees. This last one here, the bearing's just there, so it's almost 90 except for the 15. So it's 90 minus 15, which is 75. But remember, we write it as a three-figure bearing, 075. This sheet here, compass and three-figure bearings. You have to write the bearings in two ways, compass bearing and three-figure bearing. So compass bearing here, well, it's between north and east, but it's north 75 degrees towards east. The three-figure bearing measured from north going clockwise, three-figure bearing is 075 degrees. This three-figure bearing is obviously 135 degrees, and the compass bearing, therefore, is between south and east. If this is 135, this remaining angle here is 45, so therefore the bearing is south 45 degrees towards east. Remember, south is, you do north-south first, and then east-west, okay? This here, the true bearing is 265, so therefore, well, 270 is all the way up to there. So this angle in here, this is the true bearing, so we want the other bearing, which is the compass bearing. So it's in a roughly southwesterly direction, closer to west. So it's, but you must say south how many degrees towards west? Well, if this is 265, 270 would have been a 90-degree angle, so this bit here is just 85 from there to there. So it's south 85 degrees west. We do not say west 5 degrees towards south. This one here, 345 degrees all the way around there. That means, remember, 360 for the entire circle. That little angle in there is 15 degrees. That must be north 15 degrees towards west. Okay, over here. We know that this is north 45 degrees west, so I can write that. So we also have to write it as a true bearing. If you're standing there, looking at this direction, well, where there's north, so this angle all the way around there is nearly it's 360 take away 45, which is 315 degrees. Okay, here, giving this bearing in two ways, it's south 15 degrees towards west, or as a three-figure bearing, standing here, looking at point G, to go clockwise 180 and another 15, 180 and 15 is 195 degrees. The next one, standing here, looking at position H, well, there's north. What's the size of this angle? You could do it as 180 minus 65, or you could say that this is 65. If we know there's a right angle between south and east, this bit here must be 25. So there's two ways of doing it. So therefore that bearing is 90 plus 25, which is 115, or you could have said 180 take away 65. The next one is north 55 degrees towards east. However, as a true bearing, it's 0, 55 degrees. There's north. Its direction is 55 degrees from north. The next one down here, this is south 15 degrees towards east. Or as a three-figure bearing, it's 180 less 15, which is 165 degrees as a true bearing. Okay, this direction here, travelling along that way. Well, that's a 90-degree angle, and it's heading towards east. We're going east, and as a true bearing, it's 90 degrees from north. This position up here, L, well, its bearing is 0, okay? And it's north as well, okay? And this last one is 180, 270 plus 30, which is 300 degrees as a true bearing, but as a compass bearing, we don't say west 30 degrees towards north, we say north. If that's 30, this must be 60. So it's north 60 degrees towards west. Okay, writing the true bearings of all of these from O. So we want the true bearing from O of position A. Well, that's the bearing if that's north. So it's 180 minus 50. It would be 180 if we made it all the way around. So it would be 130. This bearing, if that's north, this is the bearing here. So it's 270 plus that 10, which is 280. I can write how I don't have, so I can go, that was 270 plus 10, that's how we got it, okay? The next one, the bearing, if that's north, starting from O, the bearing is 180 plus that 60, which is 240. The next bearing here, if this is 45 degrees here, then this is also 45 degrees, that's north. Remember, bearings must have three figures, so it's 045. The fifth one here, there's north, he's starting from O, it's this angle all the way around clockwise from north. So it's 360 almost, take away 55, which is 305 degrees. The next one, this is the bearing from north. So from O, we go north, go clockwise. Well, it's 180 plus whatever that is. Now that bit in there's 50. So 180 and 50 is 230. Or you could have said 270, take away 40, which is also 230. The next bearing is this angle here, which would be, there's north, go clockwise from north, it's 90 plus 20, which is 110. The next bearing here, if that's north, if this is 30, that must be 60, so therefore the bearing is 060, 60 degrees. Next bearing, if that's north, it's this angle here, which is 180 minus 60, which is 120. Or you could say it's 90 plus this bit here would be 30. The next bearing is 270 plus 80, which is 350. Or you could say if that's 80, this is 10, it's 360 minus 10. The next bearing would be 180 plus that 75, which is 220, sorry, not 225, 255. The next bearing here, well, if this is 70, that's 20, there's north. So clockwise from north, that bearing is 20, 020. Question 13, the bearing, if that's north, bearing of O, bearing of M from O, clockwise from north, it would be 180 plus 65, which is 245. This bearing of N from O would be this angle here. Clockwise from north, it would be 180 plus the 30, which is 210. The next one, bearing of P from O, starting from O, there's our north sign, go clockwise. The bearing would be 270 plus 20, which is 290. The next bearing of Q from O, if that's north, it would be that 90 plus the 45, which is 135. Next bearing of R from O, go north clockwise, it would be 360 minus the 50, which is 310. Or you could say it's 270 plus that bit there, which would be 40, which is also 310. The next bearing, north clockwise, it's 15, 015. The next bearing of T from O is 180 minus 75, which is 105 degrees. And the last bearing is this 180 plus this little bit. Now that little bit there would be 10 if that's 80. So 180 and 10 is 190 degrees.